Okay. That's interesting. You see that? The sprocket's moving. Oh man. I wonder if it's wallered out or if it's just... That seems bad. That's a lot of movement. So I wonder if this was always moving that much and I just never noticed. But it's the sprocket holes are slightly larger than the bolt holes here, and so it can kind of rock back and forth between that gap. I figured that the clamping force would be enough to keep it from really doing that though, but these were on there pretty tight when I pulled them off. Well, a couple of these bolts look like they've been hammered by the sprocket and it's marred up the threads right where that interaction is. Interesting. So I ran a tap down these threads in this wheel and a ton of material came out. I think these threads are pretty boogered up. I can see a few that are pretty gnarly. Let's see if I can get a shot of them. There's a, it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a few threads ripped out of that hole, and this is everything that came out of those 4 holes. So these are going to become my rain set of wheels if we ever race in the rain again. I've got a new wheel set sitting in a box, so next time I need tires, which will probably be early next year, I'll swap out the wheel. But for now, we got a new 39 tooth sprocket here that was from the other wheel set. I'm just going to throw this on because it's not, the holes aren't wallered out like the other ones are. And I 3D printed these little buttons. These are on the edge of what my 3D printer will actually print. They're very thin walled, but it should be enough to kind of take up that slot from the bolts. And they're a nice press fit. I'm curious to know if the 3D printed PLA will hold up to the abuse that I'm about to put it through, but we're going to find out. So instead of these retainers that fold up around the bolt and hold them in place, I drilled all of the bolts out for safety wire. I did that on the KX65 and that sprocket hasn't moved. Granted, it's not dealing with the torque that the 150R is dealing with. Just gonna run a tap through these. They're tight enough that I can't just shove a bolt through. So gotta wind the bolts in. So I've got the bolts just run down a little bit. And as we can see, there's 0 slop in the sprocket here. They're not even, they're not even clamping it down. It's just taking up that slot between the hole in the sprocket and the threads on the bolts. So I'm going to back these out, throw some red Loctite on them, and then run them down, torque them, and then safety wire. I guess it's time to find out if these little buttons crack when I torque them down. All right, so these get torqued to 27 foot-pounds, and we'll find out if we just destroy our PLA buttons here. 27. Looks like we definitely squished the button quite a bit. That should be fine. All right, let's get the rest of them done. All right, so we've got our bolts Loctited and torqued. And now we put some safety wire on there. These things will not move. Not my finest safety wire job, but I do prefer it to these plates. These, I have noticed, will allow these bolts to back out a little bit, and once they start spinning, it'll bend these ears back. The safety wire here, though, will not allow these to back out that much. And we got the rear wheel back on. I put a new chain on there as well, so nice and fresh. Gonna give this a test at Adams coming up here pretty shortly, and we'll see how they fare. Alright, so it's been a little bit since I went ahead and fixed the sprocket on this wheel here on the 150R. We've gone through 2 different track days and it's not moving at all. Bolts aren't backing off, they're not losing any of their clamping force, so I'm going to call that a win. So thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. See you on the next one.